Near mint condition, the home of collected edition.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here with
Tik Tok Tina.
And Near Mint Condition coming at you with some recent Udon manga. So let's go ahead and get started.
I'm ready. Before getting started, I just wanted to say thank you, Udon, for sending these books. It means so much to us.
So we have different series, ongoing series, brand new series that I have been waiting to talk about. So I do have Tik Tok Tina here to help me with this overview. But before we get started, don't forget to smash what button, Tina?
That like button.
That's right. That means the world to us. I'm going to go ladies first, right? You want to do that? Ladies first?
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the continuation of Record of Lodoss for the Crown of the Covenant?
Now, I know you did an overview, I think, of Volume 1.
I did.
This, I've read all 3 that are out currently. They're gorgeous.
Why don't you show me?
All right. Let's get right into it. Let's take a look at these gorgeous books. Now, I'm a fan of Record of Lodoss War, so it would go without question that I want to pick these up, not only for Deedlit, but the continuation of Lodoss. This joins the crew, or at least the world of Lodoss, 100 years after we finish with Parn and Deedlit. And of course, Kingdom's gonna scheme, and that's exactly what is happening in this. I'm not going to go over the Volume 1. Check out Omar's other video to check that one out. I want to talk about Volumes 2 and Volumes 3. They retail for about $13.99 and consist of about 160 pages. So they're not real thick, but they're not thin either. And the art is gorgeous. The art is done by Atsushi Suzumi. And it picks up the original story from our original light novel. We do meet familiar characters. So as I said, it does have Deedlit. So if you're a fan of Deedlit and the older anime or manga, you'll find her in here. And it's nice to meet familiar faces and characters in a modern art style. We still have the same dark elf versus light elf drama. And we've got a character that suspiciously looks kind of like Parn. So there's sort of an homage. So we join up after Volume 1 with Lyle, who is a prince of the Dark Kingdom. Let me get to it. So it's nice that they have a map of Lodoss here, because it tells you in each of the books exactly where our key players are. And it kind of refreshes your mind. If you drop this, read some other manga, and pick this back up, you can kind of refresh yourself quickly at a glance where the princes of Marmo are, because obviously the 3 brothers have split off. I don't want to give too much away, because we are seeing the kingdom of Marmo split with the family. Each one is taken to a different area, and they have a different path forward. Unfortunately, they are going to make enemies of each other while still retaining that sort of familiar bond, brother fighting brother, because they've got different ideals that they want to progress on what is best for the kingdom, what is best for Lodoss. Gorgeous art. Simply gorgeous. And I really appreciate giving us these color splash pages in the beginning so we can appreciate the characters and the artist for all it's worth. Wonderful. And of course the back here. Robotics notes, or I guess robotics semicolon notes. I never know how to pronounce these. So if you know, comment down below. But Robotics Notes is set in the world of Steins Gate. This beautiful, thick volume retails for approximately $24.99 and consists about a 356 pages. This is volume 1. I believe they have a volume 2 out or coming out soon. Let's talk about the art here. Art, or the manga, is done by Kaiji Asakawa, and it is gorgeous. I'm a big fan of manga. It is a little bit of a more modern aesthetic, but it is still gorgeous. And as I said, it's set in the world of Steins Gate, so it's a little bit more up to date. It does have a slow build, I will say that. At first, I found myself a little bit listless in the first part, but it gets a little faster as we go. And if you're into mecha, if you're into robots, this is the manga for you. It, of course, has our very stereotypical mecha battle in here. A high school club of mecha or robotics enthusiasts going to Tokyo to battle. They're from a small island. But there's something a little strange about the two main characters. So our main protagonist, Kaito Yashio, and I love, they give a little bio page for each character that we kind of meet, or the specs, which is nice. It's a mech anime. You're gonna give specs on mecha. Well, this page gives you the specs of the human characters. It does give you about, and there's little info pages for each volume about what is fictional in this world and what is like a term that you may not encounter that is real. So Kaito is not really enthused with the mecha club. His best friend growing up kind of ropes him into doing it. But you find out that her older sister was actually the one that started the mech club. And he wants to beat her in this game. He wants to catch up with her. And her sister wants to catch up with her as well. We do encounter her in Tokyo later on. And we start seeing little plot points that we didn't think were interrelated relate together. If you're familiar with Steins Gate, there's small little bits that they sort of drop throughout this that will come together later on. I know Steins Gate made my head hurt just how much the small plot points are actually interrelated, but once you get it, you get it. Here we go. Here's another mech that they meet, like a mechanist fabricator that helps them out with this club. And of course, the school really just kind of wants to shut them down. They're tired of giving this club so much in budget, but they make a bet that if you can win this encounter, we might be willing to continue. And you'll have to read on to see what happens further on. I never like to spoil too much because I want you to read this manga. It is definitely worth picking up and having on your shelf, especially you really get your bang out of your buck with this title.
One of my most anticipated reads of the year is finally here, and that is Team Phoenix. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 are out. We have a total of 5, maybe 6, I'm not really sure, but if you know, please let me know. We are talking about characters from Osamu Tezuka. These are characters that were featured through his original 60 years career. I mean, this is the god of manga that created so many characters, and now they're existing in one world. Of course, he passed away in the 90s, but this is Kenny Ruiz's vision of how this would work. Now, what's really interesting about this is that this series started in the Tezukomi that I did an overview of that was brought over by Magnetic Press, and it features different characters. So the main characters are Princess Knight here, and Leo, and the three-eyed boy right there, and Blackjack, Hyokamaru back there, and this young girl named Fire. So what is happening is that Princess Knight, Sapphire, is building a team of pirates, pretty much, to go and fight off against the Robot Alliance. So the Robot Alliance is taking over the entire universe. So now it's up to some, I think they're called biologics or something like that. They're organics, right? Like people that have flesh, to set things right. So Sapphire, the Princess Knight of Silverland, is put together a form of space pirates, like I talked about. And one of them is Leo, who in this vision is an anthropomorphic character. So he is stands up on his hind legs. He talks. Of course, he talked in the original show too, but in this, he is kind of a badass. Like he's just wrecking things and wrecking robots. And they're also joined by Sharaku, and I mentioned him, the three-eyed boy, who's a race that can see things. He's not really helpful when it comes to fighting, but whenever he uses his powers, he knows the weaknesses of where these machines should be hit. So in this volume is where they get bombarded and they end up meeting as this young lady right here, Fire, that I mentioned earlier. Brings them back to her land, and what she is doing is she has visions of saving the galaxy, and she claims to know how. And this is where we get to meet another character, Hyakamaru, from the pages of Dororo, the manga. And together, these are pretty much going to be our main characters that get inside of a giant spaceship. Now, they're being followed by this private investigator, or I guess the detective, Geisich, which is a character that appeared in the pages of Astro Boy. As a matter of fact, he's such a big character that he appears in Pluto, the manga by Urasawa. But let me show you a little bit of the second book, because we have two characters that end up joining the team here. Here's a little recap of what's happened previously and who is behind all of this madness. And that is Blackjack and Midnight. Now, Midnight looks a little different. In this, I've never read Midnight, by the way. It was a manga that I don't think was translated here in America. In this, it's a lady. But Blackjack is still the surgeon. Now, what ends up happening is they find a spaceship called the Phoenix, and that's why it's called Team Phoenix. And Phoenix, of course, is another work of Tezuka. But they get invaded by a bunch of parasites, so somebody has to perform surgery on them, and that's when Blackjack appears right in time to save the day and ends up joining this crew to fight against this robot empire. So in the third volume, you probably already saw the cover when I was talking about it, we do have this famous character right there, and that is Atom Boy, or Astro Boy, who ends up either joining them or could tear them apart. But we're only 3 volumes in, and it's just pure fun. It's complete fanfic, but I'm loving every minute of it, just because it's a reminder of my childhood, of all these stories that I enjoyed, is reimagining these characters. So many Easter eggs. If you're a big fan of Tezuka, or just manga or anime in general, you may have seen some of these characters appear. And it's just amazing that we now have books like this accessible to us in English. I can't wait for this to finish out. The translations of the sound effects are done within the panel, by the way. And it does read in the traditional right to left format. Each book's about 200 or so pages and retails for $13.99. And that is Team Phoenix.
I'm so unbearably stoked about reviewing or showing you Persona 4 Arena. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry. Okay, I've got to stop with the TED puns. If you're familiar with Persona 4, you're going to be a little bit familiar with these characters that we meet. We also meet some of Persona 3 characters. Let me just start out by telling you that these books average about 160 pages, and they retail for $13.99 each. This is the first arc, so it goes through 3 volumes, and then we end the first arc and we pick up elsewhere, and I'll get to that in a second. Like I said, we meet back up with the investigation team. If you thought the TV world or the Midnight Broadcaster channel was over, think again. Because we're going to go back into that world, into that TV, because we're not done with the shadows there. We join Hanamaru fighting the team, and we want to know why. Why is Persona 4 characters? Why are these friends fighting each other? Why is Teddy instigating this arena, this fighting zone? And we get to the heart of the matter fairly quickly. We know that somebody is controlling them. Somebody is creating shadows to control these characters, just like, Persona. We all know it's the shadow's fault. There are inner demons in all of us. And we're not only fighting our friends in this, we're fighting the shadows that control everything. We do get to see more of these characters come out. Their defining characteristics are twisted, and we can see that they don't really want to fight each other, but they're drawn into this world. They're drawn into that shadow, and they're forced to fight with each other because something's going on in that friendship. Something's pulling these strings. Even if she doesn't realize, or they don't realize that they're pulling the strings, they are pulling the strings behind the shadows. And I said this continues on. So this encompasses the first little arc. There's more. Like Persona, there's layers upon layers of interaction. There's layers upon layers of deceit, shadow work going on. So although the initial character or initial phase, we find out what's going on there, there's someone controlling that person. There's someone feeding the shadows. And that's when we get to that little second arc here. Now, I only have the first 2 volumes. This does go on. It does go on for 4 volumes. So the first arc, 3 volumes. The second arc for Persona 4 goes into 4 volumes. So this is done by a different artist than the first arc. For Persona 4 Arena, it is done by Aiya Kyo. The second one is done by Rokuro Saito. So Atlas has picked up different artists, and you might be familiar with this artist because they've also worked on Persona 5. So if you're familiar with the work of Persona 5, you're going to enjoy Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. And yes, we still get bear puns in this one because Teddy's in it too. The art style is different. It's a little bit more linear. And once again, these do still retail for $13.99 in this volume. And they average, again, about 160 pages. I actually never played, and I'm going to spoil this, I've never played Persona 4. I've played Persona 5. I've played earlier games. I did not need to play these games to know these characters and to enjoy this manga, because it does. It picks up, it gives you information of what happened before, and you instantly feel like you know these characters. It is worth picking this up for your collection. And sadly, I only read these first 2. I don't have the next 2, and I'm going to have to run out right now and get those. If you've ever played visual novels, you're going to be familiar with Steins Gate, and this is the complete manga. I believe it was released back in 2009. So some of the jokes are a little, from that era, a little older. It contains 522 pages, so this is a thick book. Like, it is worth the price tag of $29.99, roughly $30. And if you've played the game, it is absolutely worth picking this up. I loved the visual novel. Of course, if you're familiar with visual novels, you've got choices. And the manga doesn't necessarily, it's not a choose your own adventure, but it does kind of go over different worlds, different choices, and what happens. Now, this is a psychological sci-fi, and it will make your brain hurt until everything comes together. And once you get it, you get it. It's one of those manga that it does take a while to seep in what's going on. There is a little bit of thought. If you like thinking with your manga, this is it. This is done by Yomi Sarachi in collaboration with Saito Sakai. So this is, I believe it was 5 original volumes. And like I said, this is the complete manga. So you're getting the whole shebang here in this volume. The art is gorgeous. And I know I say that a lot. This is sort of like an older style. You see a lot of the sort of like gag faces that you saw back in the early aughts. It still feels new. It still feels like it could be put out now outside of some timed jokes. We meet the characters. Rintaro Okabe. So he's the main guy. He's this science guy that has this club. And when we first meet him, and this is what made my brain hurt at first, when we first meet him, you get dumped in immediately to things in the future and things in the past. So we are running timelines. We're in the past, we're in the present, and we're in the future. We have time travelers in this. We have alteration. So what happens if you alter history? What happens if you make one little change? It affects the whole world. It affects things you never thought it would have affected. And one of my favorite affections is there is a maid cafe that one of the characters, Itaru Hashida, loves to venture to. He loves to meet the ladies there, and just one little text that Okaba sins affects just the whole maid cafe. It affects the whole area and outcome, and it's kind of depressing. It's kind of sad what happens. And I don't want to say this is like a joke. It's completely funny because it's serious. This manga does have a murder mystery, trying to right the wrongs of your actions in the past to the future and vice versa. It is very, I wouldn't say a Doctor Who, but it's sort of like a manga Doctor Who whodunit. And when I say it is psychological, like, there are choices that these characters make that you're thinking, why did they do this? Why would they want to do this? But it makes sense. It does have some early 2000s sort of like internet speak. It homages like older systems, outdated software and phones. Like these guys have like flip phones. But it is still fun. It still feels very modern. Oh, look at that. I love these characters. The art style is gorgeous. The character designs are good. These characters are not forgettable at all. And I just love the world of Steins Gate. So pick this up. And if you like this world and you want something that's a little akin to space, world building, weird things happening, pick up Robotics Notes, because it's set in the same sort of world or time frame. Check it out, guys. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these manga, please check out our sponsor,
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was our overview for these particular titles. Let us know in the comments down below which ones you have checked out, which ones you are interested in, and what other titles you would love to see Udon release.
If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these manga.
And that's it. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.
See ya.